Good afternoon. Welcome back to the B&H Event Space. You're tuned in to Live Your Vision, Unleashing Creativity in Live Production, hosted by VizRT. I'd like to welcome Jeremy Morris to the program. Jeremy, what's going on?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, this is a pleasure. And today, my entire team is actively engaged. This is stuff. If there were ever a topic that we need, that we want, that we are going to be hanging on to every last word, it is a little something of what we do, live production. So you're going to be you're the sage, man. Today, you're going to be the wise master leading us, and I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll be hanging in the wings on every word. And we do want some questions to come into this. It is going to be super engaged for all of our viewers out there. So when you think live production, let your mind run wild with the questions. There's so many different directions we could take this. So I'll turn it over to Jeremy. And Jeremy, I'll see you in a bit for some conversation in a few.
All right, thanks a lot, Derek. So, yes, introduction, Jeremy Morris, evangelist with VizRT. So, some of you might know me in my previous life under NewTek. Several years ago, there was an acquire where VizRT bought the assets of NewTek. We've kind of been rolled into one big happy orange family, as you see a little orange on my shirt now, to talk about this, and a little bit of blue too. But we've kind of merged a lot of technologies under that one larger VizRT umbrella. So we took a lot of the stuff from the TriCaster days, a lot of stuff that people had utilized for a long, long time, and rolled that into that larger portfolio, and also taken some of the cool stuff that's been going on the high-end broadcast world for many, many years. Now we're able to bring that down to some of the entry-level production type individuals, as well as kind of democratize some more of the high-end graphics for everybody else, not just keep it on the high-end broadcast world. So it does allow for a lot of crossover of technology and use cases. And we've seen that explode over the last several years. And in October, we did do the full over name change. So NewTek has kind of gone away, and now we are all VizRT. But we still have the TriCaster line, still have the TriCaster products. In fact, we've got two brand new products that were just announced at IBC, one of which we're going to talk about today, which is the TriCaster Mini S. So the TriCaster Mini lineup has kind of been our entry-level lineup for a long, long time. So that's kind of been with the Mini 4K, the Mini HDMI, and the Mini X. It's a smaller form factor, even the Mini USB Go. So a lot of different ways we can utilize production in remote as well as portability. So you can throw it in a backpack and take it wherever you want to. So the TriCaster Mini lineup has been doing that very successfully for a long, long time. So we've kind of taken it a step further to come out with the Mini S version, which is our software-only TriCaster. So now people are going to say, oh, well, I can run this on whatever. Well, to an extent, we're going to go into that a little more in detail of what we're able to do with the TriCaster Mini S. We've also come out with the TriCaster Vision. So we've seen that a lot on social media here recently, that Live Your Vision. I was just in New York last week for NAB New York, and we talked about the Vision. We were able to show it off. So that's our new high-end platform, 44 inputs. A lot of cool stuff we're able to do now on the TriCaster on the flagship product line. So that is the Vision. But today we're going to talk about Mini S, which is kind of revolutionary and a thought process of what we've done in the past when it comes to NewTek and TriCaster stuff back in the day, but also leveraging the software side of the business on the VizRT world. So now we've kind of combined a lot of the best of breeds in that to produce this one awesome little product here. So TriCaster Mini S, I'll go ahead and share my screen and go through a little bit of a slide deck. I don't like to do death by PowerPoint. But at least go through a few slides and kind of just talk about where we are with this product and what we're able to do. So with the TriCaster Mini S, again, this is a way to produce content kind of like on the entry-level side of it, but it's also software only. We are going to talk about what we're going to do from that software and how we're going to run it on certain hardware. But the feature parity is along the same lines as the Mini 4K. So that's been a huge boost to our product line when that Mini 4K first rolled out. That was a dedicated hardware appliance for NDI. Now we're doing that in the software side of the world. So the certified hardware is really what we're going to run this on. So it's not just going to run on anything that goes out there. We're going to have a process where it'll qualify and validate on the install. So you're not going to run it on something that's not going to work. We don't want that bad experience for those end users. So we're going to kind of create this way that it'll install in a correct way on a certified hardware. Plus, if it's a certified hardware device, you also get the support, which is also very critical. So we've got a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be talking about with that on the software side. So who's it great for? A lot of different individuals and a lot of different markets for sure. Portability. So if you've got an existing broadcast production facility, but need to take something on the road, being able to run it in software means you're not schlepping a whole lot of gear all over the place to do it with. So this also helps out in when you have remote participants or ad hoc environments. I can run it with the Mini S. I don't have to have everything on my dedicated TriCaster, and I can utilize NDI and NDI Bridge to still move signals around. So having the Mini S can be very beneficial to that. And also on a entry level type, you don't know what you're going to do quite yet. You're not really sure about if you want to go into cloud, but you still want something on prem. Well, Mini S is a great way to get into that environment. So when you're talking about comparisons between the different platforms, the Mini Go, that's our USB camera based, mainly for podcasters, schools, and things like that. Only 4 inputs. The Mini X and the Mini 4K have kind of been our powerhouse boxes for a long, long time in this space. You know, the 8 inputs, combination of NDI, HDMI, and USB, and also frame rate and resolution. That's also kind of cool. Something we've been able to do for a long, long time is have a mixed environment. I can have cameras that are 720. I can produce a show in 4K, but I stream out in 1080. All that can happen inside of our platform because, again, it's a purpose-built software appliance. Now we've taken that and just made it just the software side of it. So we're still very, very powerful in that regard. Something else we've added, we bought Flowix a couple of years ago and rolled that into our product lineup. Now we've actually added it dedicated to the TriCaster line specifically. So we've added the Flowix plan to the TriCaster Mini S. So you do have the awesome horsepower of Flowix, our HTML5 based cloud SaaS model when it comes to graphics, included with the purchase of the TriCaster. So this gives you capability of producing content anywhere in the world. You're outputting a URL over HTML and this comes back in as the TriCaster. So it also gives you a way to decentralize your production even further. So your graphics operators can be anywhere you want them to be. Your TriCaster can be anywhere you want it to be, utilizing the horsepower of the internet, bring that content in, and have really cool integration with third-party applications, the social media integration, other types of data connection points. Flowix is extremely powerful and very versatile and pretty much can deal with whatever you want to throw at it. So we talk about the difference between the Mini S and the Mini 4K. Again, Mini S, software only. Mini 4K, perpetual hardware. But again, from a software perspective, from a user base, it's going to be the same experience. So you're not going to have to relearn a whole lot. It's just how you're going to deploy it and then also how you're going to purchase it. The Mini S does allow for that lower cost of ownership and lower cost of entry. So that's kind of like the basics of that slide deck. Again, I don't like death by PowerPoint. I like things to be conversational. So I'll stop sharing my screen and kind of come back to the show. Because I know Derek, you and I talked a little bit about stuff ahead of time on how we want to take this. And so I really want as much interaction as possible. So for the viewers at home, any questions, whatever, drop them in the chat. Let's actually talk about through what we're going to do and how we're going to use this in the professional space. And then I can even kind of show you how the interface looks too.
Good. I'm over here muted. There we go. There's my video. There's my video. Wow. All right. I'm going to throw out there because we're on a live stream right now. Might be a nice tailor-made starting point for production like this. I mean, I'm guessing a production like this is kind of fits right in the wheelhouse of what we're talking about here, or would
oh, exactly.
This...
And that's how you see me coming to you in this production anyways, is I'm taking the output of my TriCaster, feeding it back into the Zoom call to get us out onto the live production. And so we're using the horsepower of the software that we've created with the dedicated camera technology. Again, this is an NDI-based 4K camera that's on me. It's one of our PTZ3s. So that's how you see me coming in, even a 4K camera, mixing it through software at a lower resolution because, again, you're not sure what your internet speed is going to be like. So I've intentionally down converted, if you really want to call it that, to 720 to go out because, again, I'm in my shed in North Georgia. So I'm limited to what my ISP can provide me when it comes to internet, but I can still produce high-end content locally and then deal with the streaming side of it or the connection with the VMware type softwares like Zoom and Teams and whatnot, and then be able to transport this however I want to, wherever I need to. So it goes back to the horsepower of what we built originally and then how we're going to use it. So something as simple as just a podcast, just a conversation. We can do this on this entry-level side because, again, you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in production gear to pull off a good-looking show. So it's something else that we're also helping out with these end users on the training side of it. We've got our VizRT University where you can actually go through and become a certified TriCaster operator. So you can have that piece of paper, walk around with it, whatever you want to do, to say, hey, I know exactly how to use this product, and here's how I'm using it.
You're saying all the right things, Jeremy. To all the
I've
right
done
things.
it before,
Well, it's funny because I'm sitting here and it's like, we're going to quietly judge and quietly like, okay, these guys are supposed to be great at live streaming. Is everything coming through on his end? Is everything, it's like it's putting the product and the knowledge into use. And there's no hiccups. The delay, you're clean, the feed is great. And so I'm looking at all these things and I'm like, wow, I have so many people that go through all these different setups. And we get people that they spice it up and they'll go through various switchers and use all this technology available to them. And when you go through certain setups, Zoom being one of them, it's not the best, or it's a little janky, you have your hiccups here and there, and the quality doesn't come through as well. So really, can you talk us through your entire setup right now? Because
Yeah,
everything looks
sure.
great.
Yeah, I can kind of break the fourth wall on some of this and actually show you how I'm doing this. So if I bring over my video source, so you can actually see what the software interface looks like. So I'm actually producing this entire environment through the TriCaster, and then taking the output of that TriCaster and feeding it into the Zoom call that you guys have set up for us to be able to produce this live webinar. So from the software interface perspective, it looks like a switcher because it is. That's what I'm doing. I'm actually producing content. I can mix in the graphics. I can switch the camera angles. You see a couple different ones across the side. I've even got my overhead camera shot so you can actually see what I'm doing from a control surface perspective. So I have a control surface here sitting in front of me that I can do a live production switch on the high end side. So if you really want, as a traditional TD like I am, I want the buttons. I've got preview program. I got the T bar to fire the Death Star. All this is available to me locally at my fingertips, or I can run it inside the software. So we can simplify the user experience as well. So we don't also force you into one type of workflow. We kind of make as whatever comfortability you're at. And when I used to do a lot of trainings, I'd say there's about 4,000 right ways of doing something with the TriCaster. There's about 4 wrong, and we kind of talk about them and explain what those really are. But for the most part, whatever makes the most sense to you as the end user, that's the adaptability of our software. And we had that adaptability on that hardware platform. Now we've taken that hardware requirement away and just made it in the software. So now we've adapted even further to your end user experience. Whatever hardware makes the most sense. Right now, we are qualified on a Lenovo P3 hardware. So it is a small form factor box, but we're going to qualify more and more systems, even laptops, because again, there's a lot of running guns that run stuff in laptops. So we're going to get to that point. And so you'll see that list come out, refer back to our website and things like that when we're going to have those updates to know, hey, yes, this is a verified box. This hardware will work. It's been tested. It's been vetted, and it'll also be supported. That's the other cool thing.
That's awesome. I mean, it looks pretty self-explanatory as far as the layout is concerned. How hard is it? What's the learning curve? I mean, it looks nice, it looks clean. For somebody starting, I'm gonna throw myself out there, zero experience using a switcher, whether hardware or software. What's the learning curve on this?
We can make it as hard or as simple as you want it to be. That's the other thing too.
I'm at children's book level.
Yeah, so we've done this training for a lot. I mean, higher education, even K-12. My kids run it all the time. There is a simplified operation which is called Live Panel. So it's a browser-based application we can actually run inside the TriCaster. So then you take everything that's going on in your main user interface, which is a lot. There's a lot to think about, a lot to go on, but we can simplify that. We even have an express mode in the software itself where it's just hot button press. Whatever I select on those rows, that's what you take to air. You don't even have to learn preview program and red and green tally and all the basic production knowledge. You can start small, work your way into it.
Interesting.
But with our live panel option, we can actually run that on an iPad. So then you've got basic switching capability in the browser. So you also don't screw everything up. So if you're just messing around, not really knowing what you're going to do, when you're in the main user interface, yes, you can affect everything in the production. But on Live Panel, you can tailor that. You can automate. We have our macro engine, which is incredibly powerful. So I can automate just about everything the TriCaster is capable of. I can create my big fat easy button. And we also have our VizRT professional services team to assist in some of those macros, some of those automation tips and tricks. And we play well with others. So if you are integrating with third-party devices, we can talk about that. What's the best way to control the audio mixer and with the TriCaster on the production side? There are ways to do third-party lighting controls. I mean, there's so many other things that we can do from a connectivity standpoint that then we can automate that process. I mean, we even have a teleprompter script engine that's built in. So we can run a teleprompter script engine that can automate the production based on how the script is even being read. So that's Live Story Creator. So that's a cool little tool that we have built in under our automation section.
That's wild. So we could load in if we had, a general, say you did have a slide deck and you can take the text from that slide deck and load it in there and it would kind of like a virtual production.
Short answer, yes.
Okay.
There's the ways we can call out. I mean, even with Stream Deck, we have got the Stream Deck plugin that's available on the Stream Deck website for the TriCaster. That's a way to also add in those automation tools. I would show you, but my stuff is still on the way back from New York. So my Stream Deck was packed in with all my other gear. But there's a lot of stuff we can do. We play well with others. We're adaptive to the creative process because, again, we're a software-driven company that has dedicated hardware for connectivity purposes, obviously, but it allows for so much room to grow and to take your productions kind of wherever you need them to go.
I like that approach. I mean, I think we live in a world now that is so, especially there's certain large brands that everybody knows of that are so proprietary, and not everybody, you have to start somewhere, right? And sometimes you get the gear that is available to you or that you can afford or for whatever reason. And then you graduate or you move or you say, you know what? I used a product from this brand over here. I really like what they're doing. But having that compatibility speaks volumes for, hey, I want to bring this product over to use it with this product. I can move over to the ecosystem in due time, but for the time being, I want to have, my different pieces of the puzzle kind of jive together, right?
Right. I think it goes back to NDI as a protocol in the first place. I mean, that's something that we kind of took and invented based on the old IVGA protocol that was inherent to TriCasters a long, long time ago, and just unleashed that on the masses. And so now you've got the full democratization, not just of the video from a switching perspective, but also content delivery. With NDI being as plug and play as possible, you can mix and match a wide variety of cameras, decoders, software development, so many different things, but you're speaking the same common language, so you can move content around very freely. Then we add NDI Bridge a couple of years ago with the NDI 5.5 rollout, and so now we can move NDI across public internet, which a lot of people freak out about even further. It's like, oh, wow, now I'm doing that. Yeah, yes, you can. Even with NDI 6, we've got WAN capabilities. So I'll be able to take NDI straight from a PTZ camera throughout the network to get it back into the TriCasters to eliminate some of the bridge requirements sometimes. So again, does require some IT conversations to be had. And there's some IT departments that like to freak out and have some knockdown, drag out fights with me, but I can speak louder. I can use more acronyms, and usually they calm down. So it becomes very fun sometimes. But once they see the technology in use, here's what you're able to do with it. A lot of people calm down. It's like, oh, okay, now I get it. I see the vision. Live your vision. We're talking about that now in the production space with TriCasters. Here's how we're able to do it. Here's the end result. And there's so many other ways we can combine and move things around. I mean, we're in everything from government space to corporate space, to, the broadcast call letter stations, to the mom and pop production shops, to the run and gun guys. I mean, we serve every single vertical market you can think of, and effectively as well, because of that ease of use, the flexibility. I mean, that's even why we named our control panels the Flex, because they are incredibly flexible, and the capabilities, the connectivity, the use case. So again, we never force you into one type of workflow. We allow a lot of adaptability.
Mhm. And how much upward adaptability on something like this? Is this something that you're going to be able to, some products you get and they kind of have a ceiling where, okay, this is a beginner entry level kind of thing and there's a ceiling on it. Where's the ceiling on this, or is there a ceiling?
So the ceiling is pretty much where you want to take it from a software interface perspective, because again, we've got different scale models. So we have 8 or 4 inputs to 8 inputs to 16 to 44. So that's really where the limitation is. It's like, well, how many sources, how many bells and whistles and extra features do you need? But then we also include an upgrade path for that. So we do allow for trade-in credits. So if you want to start small and deal with the mini 4K, but want to move up to a TC1 or up to a Vision, we do allow for that trade-in process to happen. And we even kind of give you some discount off the purchase price of the new system. So it allows you to grow into the new products as you move up, once you've reached the limitation of the physical IO count. And even that can kind of be a misnomer, because if you're in the NDI space, it's the limit of your network. I mean, we've got clients that have got 700 NDI sources on their network. They're only using certain ones at a certain given time. So it comes down to use case as well. So that's kind of where we're moving things, is the adaptability of the software in general. And then how do we connect up based on your existing workflow? And then once you reach a certain spot, okay, now I've kind of overgrown my existing infrastructure. Now I need to step it up to the next level. Or now I've got 3 or 4 studios that now all need to interconnect. Or I may have a larger production switcher. I may even have, like a Vision or a TC1. But now with our Flex panels, I can have multiple operators involved now, which is something that really we haven't been able to do in the past. So from one main TriCaster, I can have 2 completely different switched productions going on simultaneously. So
Wow.
we're, again, changing the dynamic in a lot of stuff. And it's been a whole lot of fun in the process.
That's awesome. And I love that you guys really do cover from, the lower end productions like ours here up to large scale productions. And that instills confidence. And I think that, from what it looks like on my side, it's like you can take the big stuff. If there's this stuff that the big productions are running off of, and if there's a use for it and a benefit for it in a lower scale production, it's lessening the gap between, the podcaster, the at-home person, the content creator, and the big production company that has the bigger budget.
Mm-hmm. And everywhere in between. And the way we've stylized the software interface, you don't have to relearn everything when you go to a different platform, because the user interface, the experience has been kind of the same across the years. So the same location, okay, I know where my input settings are at, or I know where my DDR playback, even though I've got 4 of them now on a Vision, I've only got 2 on a Mini, but same terminology, location, where things are at, how they behave. So you don't have to relearn everything. Oh, now I've moved up to the higher end system. What's all changed? What's all different? Well, certain things here and there. And yes, there's more feature sets, and we roll that out in software in general, but it's how we deal with it to keep it linear from a workflow, from a learning perspective, that again, you're not scared of, oh, I've got so much to relearn now because I'm on a different box. No, the same general ideas, same concepts are there, the same location of inputs. So that does help things move forward.
Okay. I want to get in some questions here. I love that my production team is joining in on the questions. It's like I told you, they'd be clearly curious about all this stuff. First one, does the TriCaster hardware output without the need for a computer, such as an internal RTMP that is customizable?
Yeah, so that's actually part of the name in TriCaster, is what we're able to do with those 3 different elements. It's the live switching, it's the recording, and the streaming, all built into one platform. And so, yes, our internal streaming and coding engines, you can output that stream kind of however you want to, so that it's going straight to a common platform based on existing APIs and logins like YouTube, Facebook, whatever. Vimeo, we can feed that straight to it, or a custom RTMP stream. So if you've got your own custom server front end that you need to move content to, we see this a lot with municipalities and other corporate entities that have an internal streaming service or VOD that's built into their own environment. We can send a feed straight to them in their own protocol and their own profile. So we can go and do the custom fields and set up the way they want to.
Okay. And on the recording side, is it only recording the program feed? Is it recording each of the input lines separately?
So yes, with a maybe. So depending on the product,
Okay.
all the available outputs, so usually you've got your 4 mix outs, those are recordable straight from the get-go. And then we do have certain product lines that allow for ISO recording of your inputs as well. Now, there's also the issue of where do those recordings go? There's no algorithm on the planet to allow for, like on the Vision, for instance, 44 ISO records to go to a single hard drive. So we do have our NRS platform, which is our network remote storage appliance. So that sits on the network that will allow you to point all those ISO feeds straight to it. So yes, I can record my ISOs. I just got to point them somewhere. So then it allows us to implement our NDI workflow in the recording space as well, for archive, for editing, things like that. So we do have an NLE workflow that's actually really, really cool with the NRS appliance to allow for, online editing, growing file size, all that fun stuff as the show's going on. So if you want to have someone recut a show while it's being produced, we can support that as well.
This is all so cool. And Jeremy, there's no stumping you. It's like you're on top of everything. Come on, people, do better with the questions. Now, question, does the software control over the TriCaster hardware have to be on the same network, or can the software control the switcher even more remotely?
This is where things get really fun. So when we had NDI Bridge come out a couple of years ago, that's one thing that I really took advantage of early on, where I could leave my hardware at home, take a control panel, my laptop on the road with me to do trade shows or whatever, then utilizing NDI Bridge to connect up wherever I'm at. I've even done this I did this out front of the Minneapolis airport with my laptop and a hotspot, and just happened to have everything being run back home. I just left it on, and so I just dialed into it. And I'm controlling my TriCaster from outside because I'm waiting on my Uber. And I posted that video online. It was kind of funny, but yeah, we do allow for that. Inside the NDI protocol is the control for switching capability. That's how we deal with the Flex panels right now. So we got our Flex and our Flex Dual that connect via NDI. So that does allow for that full-on remote control capability, even with our cloud service, which is something we haven't touched on yet, is we do run TriCaster in the cloud. We've got the Vectar, which runs in AWS Marketplace. We also have the TC now, which is kind of running on our own infrastructure. But again, cloud-based, still leveraging NDI Bridge, allow for connectivity. I've got my remote panel sitting right in front of me. I can control any TriCaster I want to.
Wow. Now I kind of want to boil it into. I know we've discussed a lot of the ins and outs and the benefits and everything that's offered for smaller production, right? Again, let's take the event space production. Where should somebody draw the line between hardware and software versions?
So with event space, again, because events, especially in the live event space, this can kind of be all over the place at every deployment. I've done a lot of live stuff myself, and it all comes down to what's your in-room experience versus what needs to be sent out to the outside world. And a lot of times there's some interactions between the two, where you've got remote presenters, remote guests, feeds that are coming in through Zoom or Teams or whatever that have to be handled locally, but then also handled for the production. So we had Live Call Connect for a while in our higher end line, the TC2, the TC1 Pro, so I could integrate Teams and Zoom and whatnot into the actual broadcast, but take those feeds and put them into live production. So the software has been able to handle this for quite a while. The hardware really comes into play when what's your local infrastructure look like? How many sources? What's your deal? Are you dealing with baseband video connections, or are you doing everything via NDI? So there's a lot of other workflow discussions to kind of flush out some of that stuff. There's a lot of live event space that still has a mixture of SDI and NDI. I can think of a lot of car shows. Hopefully he's watching. One of my partners out there in the real world doing live events where you do have that mixed use environment and different signal types. I mean, you've got the HDMI that's being fed to the projectors or to the live screen or to the video wall. But some of your cameras that are coming in on the high-end broadcast cameras are going to be SDI or 12G or fiber. And then PTZs might be NDI based or even software coming from telemetry devices. So you got a mixing and matching of different signal types and different forms and flavors. That can also kind of push the discussion. Okay, which platform really makes the most sense? Do I want to run everything in cloud? Sure, why not? We had the big hockey game last year that we did. That was all run with Vectar in the cloud. That case study is online on our website. When we did an NHL broadcast, purely in cloud technology. So there's a lot of other ways we can take that discussion based on what the real world and the end user's experience wants to be. So again, there's a lot of ways for me to get to a yes. If I get to a no, it's for a very, very good reason. But sometimes it's very easy for me to get to that yes.
That's wild. I didn't realize that you guys did an entire NHL production all cloud based.
Yeah, so on the Visitor T website are the case studies. It's been shown from last year. I think it was a Capitals game, and I forget who their team was, but yeah, we did an entire NHL broadcast on the cloud.
Wild, man. I thought I had stress running this little live stream on here. We did have a question on the buttons on the TriCaster. Are they color LED? Are they customizable LED so that they can be electronically
They change
labeled?
color depending on, like, preview program. It's going to follow your red and green tally. But if I'm working in like one of the MEs, like on a mix effect bank, those colors can change based on what ME I'm in. So that way I know, hey, if I'm orange and blue, that's ME1. If it's yellow and green, that's something else. So it's kind of where those colors come from. That yes, they will change color depending on the use case of the environment.
Okay. And as far as comments sections or chats, such as is popular on YouTube, Twitch, asking, does the TriCaster system incorporate these comments and chats from YouTube or Twitch? So production and or the host has direct access to that live communication without having to dive into admin or studio aspects of those platforms.
That's where Flowix really takes the cake. That's an incredibly powerful aspect of what Flowix is able to do, is the curation, the branding. So it takes those feeds. It's the data integration wherever it's coming from. So if you're doing multi-stream, multi-platform at the same time, you're going to have comments that are coming from all over the place. And so a lot of times you're going to have someone on the back end who's watching every single feed and then copying it over and moving those comments over, depending if it's a YouTube comment or if it's a Facebook comment or Twitter or whatever. So where Flowix comes into play is aggregating all that content from those data connection points and then having all those comments come in and then match your branding as well. So it's not going to just be a text bubble box or a screen grab or whatever. You can actually tailor that to match your graphic look, whether or not that's a full lower third, if it's the over the shoulder, or whatever those comments are coming in as. That's where Flowix really can shine. And having that HTML5 backend is very, very powerful. There'll be a lot of videos on that. So on the VizRT YouTube channel and a few other locations, we get a lot of tutorials and a lot of stuff on Flowix.
I love that. Such good information here. I mean, if someone were interested, Jeremy, and someone's like, "Hey, I don't know what I need. I don't want to buy anything. I'm confused. YouTube has almost too much information." Where can somebody go? Is there somebody like almost like a consultant? Do you guys have people who are like, "Hey, what do you need? This is what we have. We're going to walk you through and get you exactly what you need." I know it's like buying something and the next thing you know, well, I need, 5 other accessories to make it all work together.
Right. So several different ways. So yes, we do have our YouTube channel that has a lot of information, a lot of videos. Our Viz University, those are the online learning platforms. So it's kind of self-paced. You can actually go through the entire product line and become certified and things like that. But before that even starts, yes, you can go onto our website. The chat bot will pop up there. You can connect up and actually get involved with our pre-sales team and kind of walk you through what TriCaster makes the most sense. In fact, we actually had a marketing demand gen page for that. What's the right TriCaster for you, kind of a thing. You can go through and see, okay, I'm into this, this, and this. Let's kind of narrow this down. What system makes the most sense? So we can kind of tailor that in that conversation. So it's not just you're just watching a pre-recorded piece of content. There's actually ways to have interactions with individuals at VizRT to walk you through those steps. What's your camera type? What are your sources going to be? Are you baseband or NDI? Connectivity points, where this is going to be deployed. What region of the world are you in? Because we are a global company, so we do serve a lot of regions based on local dealerships as well. So our end user base can go locally to our local resellers in that market, and folks like yourselves. And we're having these webinars, we're learning more about this. Then we can start to steer these clients to certain individuals, either internally at VizRT or to our dealer network.
Awesome. Final topic of conversation here. It's not really a question. I'm just going to throw out a term. And you take it where you want. Where are we at right now with latency and options, for limiting latency, or times where you can't really do much with latency? Where are we at with that?
Okay, so this is like my 4-letter word, IMAG. Once you go digital, you're always going to have latency. You're fighting physics at that point. I go in a long dissertation with a lot of the consultants in the IMAG space and different engineers and things like that. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. I had a consultant out in California called me up after having this long discussion on IMAG and latency and throughput and things like that. He was at a concert. He says, "I saw it on the wall. Now I can't unsee it." I'm like, "That's right. You can't. If you want the lowest latency possible, go back to NTSC analog composite video. That's your lowest latency. Once you in digital, everything is kind of out the door." Then you take that to internet speeds. It used to be when we had these conversations about, hey, I'm moving content from New York to LA and back. Okay, you're in the world of 300 milliseconds round trip because that was a latency of the physical network going across the country. Well, with data centers and cloud productions and things like that, we were doing sub 30 millisecond cloud productions based on wherever the data centers are at. So now you're really low latency, almost to the point of it's on par with the box being physically in front of you. That's just the nature of technology and how it's moving. And it's so much faster than just using satellite uplink. That was obliterated a long, long time ago. But now it's where you're going to deploy it, how you're going to connect up, how you're going to control it, and then what technology you're using on the back end, and also your infrastructure. What's the cabling in the wall look like? How old is that network switch in that closet down the hall? Has that been updated? There's been several times where we're dealing with end users and the IT department is like, "Oh yeah, the switches are fine. Switches are fine." It's like, that's a 10100 that's been in there for 15 years. Let's upgrade that thing to gigabit, at least to start with. Or it's old, category 4 or 5 cabling instead of category 6 or things like that. So there's some other conversations that sometimes need to happen. But then once you realize, okay, yes, everything is now on par, everything is up to spec. And I hate the term future proof because nothing ever is.
Mhm.
And we went down that road with multi-mode fiber years ago, and they're like, oh, that's the future. It's like, well, no, multi-mode's kind of gone now. Everything's single mode just because the cost of the glass is so much less. So now we take advantage of that. And again, that's the beauty part about being a software driven company. It's like we're so easy to adapt to whatever we can deal with and roll out. Doesn't matter what the connectivity is. We support pretty much anything. Even on the IP streams, we can deal with SRT. We're very friendly with Dante on the audio side. So we do play well with others. We're not going to force you into one type of workflow or one protocol to deal with. We can mix and match a wide variety of those.
And I think that's probably the one of the best qualities about everything you've just mentioned, is that adaptability. You have to have it, and I think that sustainability and adaptability go hand in hand in this day and age where there's so much competition out there. There's so many different types of products, and being able to adapt and not only move with the changes that the industry is taking, but adapting to other products and other ecosystems is huge. And Jeremy, zero latency in any of your answers, just to throw a little dad joke in there. It's like, oh my gosh, man. It's like we couldn't stump you today. We'll have to try again some other time. You really know your stuff. And I think that really just speaks to how on top of things you guys are. I love that, whether it's software, hardware, there's just a whole lot of integration here for all different types of use cases.
Well, and it makes it fun. It's not stagnant. That's the beauty about this technology in this industry, and this is why it doesn't work for me. Is I've been doing this all my life. I started on a video toaster in high school, and come back full circle. I was in the dealer integrator market for a long, long time. So being in front of new technology constantly and new products kind of morphed my mind into always thinking about that, to even now working just for one manufacturer. Everyone's like, oh, well, isn't that more stressful? It's like, well, no, one, my brain can relax because I'm certified in 75 different manufacturer products. So I know how they'll work together, but I can concentrate on how I can make my stuff work the best with everybody else's stuff. Because nobody makes everything. You got to talk to somebody else's something at some point. Doesn't matter what it is, there's going to be a connection to something. How are you going to take advantage of that? And is it going to be the best use case of both your time, your money, and your effort? And so when you leverage all of that, expansive knowledge of everything in this industry I've dealt with for 20 some odd years, now how do you take advantage of that for the end user? Because really that's what's important. And that's how I'm here, is the end user experience. What I'm able to provide for those other individuals that are just cutting their teeth, they're just learning, or they've done a complete industry shift. We've seen this for a long time where you had your traditional AV guys, your traditional broadcast guys. So much now it's IT based. Even who controls the purse strings in a lot of these organizations, it's coming from the IT department. So you have to know networking. You have to understand how this is going to work, because also this is where the technology is going. You're limited to that copper cabling on that SDI line. Again, you're fighting physics in that regard. Once you put it onto a network, that whole decentralization really takes advantage and the flexibility. And I've seen this. I've seen the light bulbs go off in these clients' minds when we're having these conversations. Oh, I don't have to gut everything in 2 years and start over. And I don't have to ask for this, pie in the sky budget all the time and really, break the bottom line. We can really grow into what we want to do very effectively at a lower cost. So we're saving the company money, but we're doing a whole lot more with what we have. And it's an efficiency thing. When you have just network jacks that are color coded on the wall, that when you plug in, hey, that's the NDI network. So I could put a camera in the CEO's office today, so he can do a live broadcast from his office back to the rest of the company. That's such a time saver.
Yeah.
And it's such an energy saver, because we're all consuming all this amount of energy just to put a production on. If you think about the teardown, the setup, we've simplified. The camera that's on me right now has one Cat6 cable going to a network switch. So that's my power, that's my video, that's my control. Over a simplified network. I picked that up at Home Depot. Something that simple to connect to the network switch to get on air. It really does simplify things and make it a lot easier for a lot of people to just have fun with the stuff.
I love that. And like you said, it's like it used to be, you used to have a whole bunch of different experts in their fields doing a bunch of different things. And there's a lot more people wearing all hats. It makes it easier for the 1, 2, 3-person production teams to handle a whole plethora of responsibilities.
And it allows for that small team to do a lot more events at the same time. And we've seen that a lot, where we've got municipalities that are doing the main city council chambers, but down the hall, they've got an emergency zoning board or whatever else that they can spin up relatively easily. because you've got the infrastructure that's already in place. The camera's already there. I can just run that through a separate encoding channel on the TriCaster and stream that out on one of my 2 encoders while the main broadcast is still happening. So it's very cool, very slick. And again, it allows a lot of people to do a lot of cool things.
We're now going to be broadcasting 3 event spaces simultaneously daily.
Okay.
There we go.
That's fine. I'll show you do it.
There you go. Jeremy's going to have me blocked from his email within a week. It's like, I'm going to be in there with questions. Yeah, my production team's like, no, don't do it. No, Jeremy, I can't thank you enough, man. This was awesome. This was even way beyond what I expected. I mean, usually it's just we scratch the surface. We go over a watered down owner's manual, but you really dove in and got into the nuts and bolts of this whole thing. And it's now I see your passion for it. It's exciting, you know, for us because we work with this, but also it's exciting to know that you can just be a person sitting on the couch and have an idea in your head, and there's the technology available for you to just be like, well, you know what? It's obtainable. I can get up and I can do it. I don't really have much of a learning curve. I just have to have the want and the will to do it.
Yeah, it's you know, hashtag live your vision.
There you go. Live your vision. That's the perfect way to sum this whole thing up. A huge thank you to Jeremy Morris and VizRT for hosting this wonderful, wonderful hour of information. That is all we have for you today. Another edition of the B&H Virtual Event Space, now in the books. Catch y'all next time.